Peace be upon you. This is Said Mirza from MillionaireReason.com, and today we're going to be looking at the law of marriage in the Qur'an. Now, before we begin, I wanted to address this question of why the law is so central and why I'm bringing out these laws from the Qur'an and presenting them to the public. The reason is that we read in chapter 2, right in the beginning, the centrality of what the law is and how important it is. We read Alif Lam Mim, that is the writ about which there is no doubt, a guidance to those of prudent fear, those who believe in the unseen and uphold the duty, and of what we have provided them they spend. And those who believe in what was sent down to thee and what was sent down before thee, and of the hereafter they are certain. Those are upon guidance from their Lord, and it is they who are the successful. Now, this is Brother Gann's translation, the Quran Complete Revelation, and I encourage you to read his translation at reader.quranite.com. But to go back to chapter 2, verse 2, we read that is the writ, and the Arabic is al-kitab. And what the word al-kitab means is the law. As in the laws that God has given us in the Quran, those who are in prudent fear of God, the God-fearing, these laws are a guidance for them. This is what it's meant. And it further on says, those who believe in the unseen and uphold the duty. And the Arabic is aqimus salat, which the Muslims take to mean to do the 5 times prayer, but if actually you look in the Quran on how this word is used, as-salat, you'll see that it's used to mean duty, as in the commandments. So those of prudent fear, they believe in the unseen, they believe in God in the last day, and they uphold the commandments of God. That's what is being meant here, and of what we have provided them they spend. So this idea that the prayer is what is being mentioned here misses the core point, which is that we are to implement the commandments of God in the Al-Kitab, the law. And if you want more information on why this word is translated as duty and why it means duty, I suggest you look at Brother Gann's work. There is an article that he wrote that is very, very good, in which he analyzes this word salat, and I put a link in the footnotes so you can go take a look at that. It starts on page 79. So now that we understand the centrality of the law and upholding the commandments of God that are incumbent on those who fear God, we will today be looking at the law of marriage. I've already looked at the law of inheritance in a previous video, and I'll put a link in that in the drop down box below. So let's begin. Marriage. So the first thing is we have to establish who those who fear God, who can they marry. Okay, so these are the verses that talk about this subject. Okay, so this is chapter 2, verse 221. And marry not idolatresses until they believe, and a believing slave girl is better than an idolatress, though she impress you. And give not in marriage to idolaters until they believe, and a believing slave is better than an idolater, though he impress you. Those invite to the fire, and God invites to the garden and forgiveness by his leave, and he makes plain his proofs to men that they might take heed. Chapter 24, verse 3. The unchaste man shall not marry save an unchaste woman or an idolatress, and an unchaste woman shall not marry save an unchaste man or an idolater, and that is unlawful to the believers. Chapter 24, verse 32. And give in marriage the unmarried among you, and the righteous among your male slaves and your female slaves. If they be poor, God will enrich them out of his bounty, and God is encompassing and knowing. By the way, this article that I'm using, you can download it from my website, MillionaireReason.com. I'll put a link in the drop-down box below. I encourage you to read the footnotes and look at other translations as well, because most of the translations, they do translate pretty accurately when it comes to the law of God in the Quran. So let's keep going. This is chapter 24, verse 33. And let abstain those who find not marriage until God enriches them out of his bounty, and those who seek the writ from among those your right hands possess. Contract with them if you know good to be in them, and give to them out of the wealth God has given you, and compel not your slave girls to whoredom if they desire chastity, seeking the enjoyment of the life of this world, and whoso compels them, then God after their compulsion is forgiving and merciful. I wanted to stop off and address this, those whom your right hands possess, which is commonly translated as slaves. We will not be going into in depth about the stipulations for what to do with those whom our right hands possess, because in the day and age that we live in, slavery is not legitimized, at least not under the law. Obviously, this practice is still happening in other parts of the world, but in the Western world, you cannot legally own a slave, or so. These stipulations, there's no point in talking about them, basically. Okay, moving on. Chapter 4, verse 22. And marry not what your fathers married among women, save what is past. It was sexual immorality and hateful, and an evil path. Next verse, verse 23. Forbidden to you are your mothers, and your daughters, and your sisters, and your paternal aunts, and your maternal aunts, and the daughters of your brother, and the daughters of your sister, and your milk mothers, and your milk sisters, and the mothers of your wives, and the stepdaughters under your protection from your wives unto whom you have gone in. And if you have gone not in unto them, then there is no wrong upon you. And the wives of your sons or of your loins, and that you bring two sisters together, save what is past. God is forgiving and merciful. Next verse, verse 24. And chaste women, save what your right hands possess. The writ of God is over you, but lawful to you is beyond. But lawful to you is what is beyond that, if you seek with your wealth in chastity, not being fornicators, and what you enjoy thereby of them. Give them their rewards as an obligation, and there is no wrong upon you in what you do by mutual agreement after the obligation. God is knowing and wise. Verse 25 continues, and whoso among you has not the means to marry chaste women, then from what your right hands possess of believing maids, and God best knows your fate, you are of one another. So marry them with the leave of their people, and give them their rewards according to what is fitting, they being chaste and not fornicators, nor taking secret friends. But when they are in wedlock, then if they commit sexual immorality, upon them is half what is due the chaste woman of punishment. That is for him who fears hardship among you, and that you be patient is best for you, and God is forgiving and merciful. So a little bit of analysis here in verse 24, in chapter 24, verse 3, unchaste women are forbidden to the believers. And in chapter 4, verse 24, chaste women of the common folk are forbidden as well to the believers. And when I mean chaste women of the common folk, I'm talking about the people who are not given the writ, which in Jewish terminology is called Gentiles. So this effectively leaves only believing women or women of those given the writ before as possible candidates for a believing man. And this understanding is confirmed in the following verse in chapter 5, verse 5. This day are good things made lawful for you, and the food of those given the writ is lawful for you, and your food is lawful for them, as are chaste women among the believing women, and chaste women among those given the writ before you, when you have given them their dowries, being chaste and not fornicators, nor taking secret friends. And whoso denies the faith, his work has been in vain, and he in the hereafter is among the losers. Now we get to the subject of how one should marry according to the Qur'an. So we find this in chapter 60, verse 10. O you who heed warning, when the believing women come to you as emigres, examine them. God best knows their fate. And if you know them to be believing women, then return them not to the atheists. Such women are not lawful for them, and they are not lawful for such women. And give them what they spent. And you do no wrong to marry such women when you give them the rewards. And hold not by tie denying women, and ask for what you have spent, and let them ask for what they have spent. That is the judgment of God. He judges between you, and God is knowing and wise. Next verse, verse 11. And if any of your wives slip away from you to the atheists, then you are met with the same. Give those whose wives have gone the like of what they spent, and be in prudent fear of God, in whom you are believers. We have in chapter 4, verse 127. And they ask thee for a ruling concerning women. Say thou, God gives you the ruling concerning them, and what is recited to you in the writ concerning the fatherless woman, to whom you give not what is prescribed for them, and yet desire to marry them, and concerning the oppressed among children, and that you stand up for equity for the fatherless, and whatever you do of good, God knows it. So the fatherless woman, which I guess in common parlance would just call orphans, the stipulations we will discuss in the law of orphans, which I will make a video on, God willing. But to continue here, chapter 2, verse 234. And those of you who die and leave behind wives, they shall wait by themselves 4 months and 10, and when they have reached their term, then you do no wrong in what they do concerning themselves according to what is fitting, and God is aware of what you do. This continues in verse 235. And you do no wrong in what you intimate to women of proposal or hide within yourselves. God knows that you will remember them, but make not nor take an oath with them secretly, save that you speak a fitting word, and do not decide upon the knot of marriage until the writ reaches its term, and know that God knows what is within your souls. So fear him, and know that God is forgiving and clement. Now, although chapter verses 234 and 235 are in the context of marrying women whose husbands have died, a close reading of chapter 2 verse 235 suggests that an oath must be taken as part of the due process of marriage. This is also referred to obliquely in chapter 4 verse 21. So that concludes the presentation on the law of marriage. As always, these translations are from the Qur'an Complete Revelation unless otherwise noted, and the latest version of this document can be retrieved at this link. I do welcome feedback. Like I said, I do plan to release a book or some sort of online ebook or something, a PDF that compiles all these laws at the end of this project. But right now I'm just going piece by piece. So God willing, I will be working on the next set of laws on a specific subject and releasing a video on that. I hope everyone is doing well. God willing, until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.